Hey guys, Trevor here. Firstly, I'd like to apologise for not getting the episodes up in the last couple of weeks. I've simply been absolutely just flat out. I've had some work commitments and also trying to get my uni studies back online. I've had some issues there and I'm sort of not sure if I'm going to be able to sort them out yet. I'm not sure. Unfortunately, my degree might end up be something that I've just got to walk away from. Things aren't going to plan at the moment, but that's something that I'm trying to sort out. But I've been busy doing a lot of other stuff. I've had some presentations to do and a couple of trips. I did a trip out into East Gippsland, and that was pretty cool. And also a bit of a personal thing. 9 years ago, I threw a lot of my stuff into storage back up in Bright, where I used to live. And last week, I finally got to go up and I hired a truck, and I got to go up and pick up the last, pieces of stuff that I had up there. A lot of it's just crap. It's going to be thrown away, but there's some important stuff there, and that was great. I got some videos and some photos of that trip, so I plan to feature that in an upcoming episode. And so that's why I've just been flat out doing a lot of things. There's only so many hours in the week, and the big trip to Bright, that was going to be basically 24 hours, and it turned into the better part of 3 days. So that took its toll a little bit. So this weekend I've really needed a weekend, and I've chilled out. Got some new tunes and things like that. So what I thought was to try and bring everyone back up to speed and what's been going on, because I haven't been just sitting around doing nothing. I thought, this week what I'll do is I'll feature the trip I did out to East Gippsland, and that was just before Homelessness week. So it was pretty cool, and I got to do some public speaking. So here's a bit of that trip, and then next week I'll catch people up on some of the other stuff I've been doing.
That's a little percussion.
Drinking beer, stinking hot day ain't strange down here. Summertime in the Sunderland, nothing like kicking back and having a can or watching the cricket with me mates, barbecuing snags on the greasy hot plates. Like you watch out for the miles 'cause it's getting late. I'm packy every guy for God's sake. This is summertime in Australia. Thank you. This is summertime in Australia. Heading to the beach to cool down, or just to throw the frisbee around. Music festivals every week. Daylight savings means the sun don't sing. And listening to the top 100 on Australia Day. It's a day done the only way. Just hanging out with more precious days like these, I wish would never end. This is summertime in Australia. Thank you. This is summertime in Australia.
Right, so I've just arrived in Trevor and the weather's nice and looking forward to the trip and going to sail. I've got a presentation to do tomorrow and the weather's nice and it's great to get out of Melbourne for a bit.
Foodie's here, it's another good reason. Drink more beer and the rain is falling and the wind is blowing. Someone better have the fire going and head up to the mountain. Hit the slopes, the snow is where it's at when it's below zero. Breathing in the cool fresh air, living my life without a care. Oh, this is a winter, winter in Australia. Winter in Australia. 'Cause I'm so lucky, live in this land, surrounded by all this water and sand. This is a life in Australia. This is a life in Australia. Hey, thanks very much for listening, folks. My name's Rhys Crimmin. I'm going to finish up after this one, but feel free to come and say g'day.
So I've just arrived out at sail and it's not too bad a day. It was raining a little bit in Trelgan, but it looks like it's going to be a nice day out here. Haven't been out here for a couple of years and tomorrow I'm going to do a presentation talking about homelessness. It's important to note that homelessness isn't an issue just for the CBD of Melbourne. It's actually spread across Victoria and across, in fact, right across Australia. So this is why I like doing these sorts of things and allows me to promote the issues and things like that. And we need to discuss them and we need to sort them out eventually. Well, not eventually, we need to get them done as soon as possible, but that's what I'm doing out here and it should be a great trip.
Thanks, folks.
There's a shovel in my yard, soil on my boot, trail on the trouble. She said, let me straight to you. Bye-bye, da-da-da, bye-bye, da-da-da. There is poison in my blood, in the family tree, running through the generations from my father to me. Bye-bye.
Alright, as you can see I'm in the middle of sail and it's important to note that homelessness isn't just in Melbourne CBD and case in point, and I must say when I'm travelling around and I'm doing these things to camera, occasionally some really cool things happen and I've just had this young bloke Zach turn up. Zach, you want to come in then? Thanks very much for having a chat. I was just standing there setting my camera up to do this piece, and we've had a big chat. And Zach, you've known some people that have been homeless in the city, and
the city, mostly more in Sale though.
Yeah, yep. And I mean, this is the problem because so many people think it'll never happen to them.
Yeah.
And yet you
It does. Like, you can be anyone, no matter who you are, how much money you have, you can still end up homeless.
Yeah. And the important thing about that is because nobody's immune from the risks of homelessness. We need to have support agencies there. We need to have more accommodation, especially we're trying to get more public housing and better and more of that. We also need to make sure that there's affordable housing for people because that's the other problem, the rental market. I'm not sure what it's like here in Sale.
Oh, it's not too good at the moment.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's too good anywhere at the moment lately. Like,
no.
I've been looking, because I'm nearly 18, so I've been trying to look at a few places and none of it's just like, can't afford any of it lately, so
yeah,
looks like I'll be living at home for a bit longer then.
Oh, yeah, that can be a thing. Look, you've got to do what works for you. I would say if that's an option, probably it's better to stay there you say you're at TAFE doing an automotive course?
Yeah, I'm at TAFE doing an automotive course.
Is that the type of stuff you want to get in? Be a mechanic?
Yeah, I want to be a mechanic.
What, cars, trucks?
Anything really. I
Anything?
just love engines.
Yeah, look, they're great. I mean, I love the sound of an engine. I don't have a vehicle at the moment, so I have a set of wheels in my driveway. Unfortunately, it's a trailer, so that's very sad. Look, thanks very much. And tomorrow I'm going to be doing a presentation, a public speech down at the lake. And if you can turn up, mate, it'd be great.
Yeah, you'll definitely see me there then.
No worries.
See
Cheers.
ya.
I've got dirty hands. I don't sleep at night. I've got dirty hands, yeah. No, I'm not blind. There's a trouble in my yard, soil on my boot, trail of the trouble, she said. I've got dirty hands. I don't sleep at night. I've got dirty hands, yeah. No alibi.
Cheers, thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Would you like to just come in and we'll start? Come closer. I'm ugly, but I'm not that scary. So,
I'll give you one of my cards.
welcome. And thank you for joining us today on which is a pretty special day for us, the homeless people. I'm Michael Allen, and I'm your MC for about the next half an hour. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the original custodians of the land, the Gurnai people, and pay my respects to elders past and present. First of all, I'd like to welcome Jodie Nielsen, very proud Gurnai woman, to say welcome to country.
Woman Ingie, welcome. My name's Jodie and I'm a proud Gurnai woman. I'd like to welcome you all here today to the Homelessness Week Awareness Walk, which is being held on the traditional lands of the Gurnai people. I'd like to pay my respects to the elders past and present, and I extend the respect to those here today. I'd also like to acknowledge the children who are our future. The protocol of welcome to country has been handed down by our elders for generations. It was a sign of respect to let people know you are travelling onto their land, and it helps protect you while you are here. Welcome to the country is a positive act of reconciliation between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people and it helps to keep Aboriginal culture, knowledge and practices alive today. Thank you for coming out to join us in raising awareness around homelessness. Enjoy your day, Yarraby.
Thank you, Jodie. Today is possible with the support of some very special people. I'd like to thank Danny O'Brien, a member for South Gippsland, our partnerships, which are Community Housing Limited, Trev Regional Health, Yarram and District Health Service, Quantum Support Service and Uniting Gippsland. And also to Trevor, who is part of the Peer Education Support Program with the Council for Homeless Persons. I'd like to thank Macra Secondary College students, Catholic College Sale students, Yarram Secondary College students and Sale College students for being here today and participating in their walk. Why are we here? Uniting Care Gippsland, which is now Uniting, our statistics for 2016, we saw 237 homeless people. 30.2% were aged 17 years and under, so a lot of your age that are here now, and 9.5% were Aboriginal. So that's just something to think about. You know, it's always in the news about homeless people in the CBD in Melbourne, but I can guarantee you it is in Gippsland. It's right under your doorstep. I speak to people all the time who talk about homeless people, and I say there's no homeless people. There is, there's plenty. You just have to go and look for them. So first of all, I'd like to ask Danny O'Brien to come up and say a few words for us.
Is that back there? Is that working? Right.
I'll go without, might be easier. Thank you, Michael, and thank you to Uniting for putting on today. It is great to be here and to see so many people here helping to raise awareness of homelessness. As Michael said, it is prevalent everywhere, and I know from my own perspective, going to Parliament every couple of weeks, you walk home from Parliament through the city streets and you cannot help but miss those people sleeping on the streets, sleeping rough, and it has certainly attracted a lot of attention in the public domain in the last 12 months or so. But we would be wrong to think that it only happens in the CBD of Melbourne. And homelessness, of course, is not just about people sleeping rough in the streets. It's people couch surfing, it's people sleeping in their cars, in their vans. Talking to Trevor before about his experience sleeping in a van out in the bush. It is certainly a challenge, and of course it's a challenge for our young people. That's why it's great to have representatives of so many local schools here today, because it's people, many of them the same age as these students who are experiencing homelessness in our community, and that's certainly a wide challenge. It is a challenge from a state and federal government perspective, one that governments are constantly putting attention to, and one that there's never enough money for, and I acknowledge that. I know my colleague Tim Bull, who's the member for Gippsland East and the shadow housing spokesman, is working on our policy as we speak for the next election, and we'll have more to say about that. But governments of all persuasions have been trying, and I acknowledge and appreciate that more can be done. But there is great work done in our community by groups such as Uniting and various others right throughout Gippsland. Some of the statistics are fairly frightening. 5,500 people sought homelessness support services over the last year in Gippsland. And as Michael said, a very great number of those are young people, and a higher proportion than the proportion in the community are Indigenous as well. So these are issues that we do need to work on to tackle. So it's good to be here today to help to raise awareness as part of Homelessness Week. Next week, when we return to Parliament, I'm actually going to be doing a tour, a walk in them. I think it's walking a mile in their shoes tour in Melbourne, which will be dealing with directly those people living on the streets and getting a much greater appreciation of those who are experiencing homelessness in Melbourne. So this week is about raising awareness. Next week for me, I'll be learning a bit more about the direct impacts on the people involved. So thank you for coming. It's great to be here to support you and to help raise awareness, and congratulations to all those who are going to do the lap and raise awareness of homelessness in our community. Thank you.
for you.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much, Danny. Now I'd like to welcome Trevor. Trevor's the member of the Peer Education Support Program with the Council for Homeless Persons. And just one thing, he is actually videoing it over there. So if you don't want to be videoed, I wouldn't stand over this side. Please welcome Trevor.
Thanks very much. The first time Betty people look at me, they wouldn't think for a moment that I was actually homeless. From early 2008 to mid-2013, I actually lived in a small van, not one of your big Winnebagos that you see travelling around Northern Territory and things like that. It was just a little Toyota Hi-Ace. It was actually my work truck that I used to run a computer business, and when I bought it, I never thought I'd be sleeping in it. Bit of history on what went wrong. It basically just took one bad year. I was running a small business. I lived up in Bright, which is up in the northeast, a beautiful part of the world. It's just a tricky place to work in. And what happens with I wasn't running a tourism business, but I was certainly tourism dependent. We had storms on the 2nd of January 2008, and guess what happens when it thunderstorms for 24 hours? All the tourists go home. And we lost thousands, tens of thousands of dollars taken out of the economy. A few months later, petrol soars to $1.64 a litre in Bright. And nobody wanted to drive 300 odd Ks up to Bright if it was going to cost them that to come back. And we lost more income out of the economy. And my business wasn't the only one that went to the wall. It was very, very tricky. I had some health issues, and then towards the end of the year, I'd had enough, sat in the lounge room, put a loaded gun on my head, put pressure on the trigger, and I finally backed away from that, obviously. And then 4 days after Christmas, my mum dies. So it was all round a pretty tough year. The only good thing about my mum dying on the 29th of December 2008 was at least it was all contained in the 1 year. There you go. I've even screwed up the year. It was 2007. 2008 was a horrible year because that was the next year. And I was out bush. The only thing I'll tell you about my winter out bush is that I wouldn't do it again. You couldn't pay me to do it again. It was very, very tough. I lost a lot of weight. When I come to Melbourne, I was 64 kilos. Not healthy. I come to Melbourne in the sort of the second week of January, right in time for Black Saturday. Was camped at Diamond Creek, which is near, that's up in there. Got evacuated by the police and things like that. But it's interesting, I come to Melbourne for 4 days, met a girl out bush and we got friends, and then I come to Melbourne, try and sort things out with her, but she didn't like me coming to Melbourne. And while I waited for my money to materialise in my bank, the brain went gobble gobble. I travelled the trains, and I decided maybe I should be in Melbourne for a couple of weeks, and then I might be in Melbourne for a month, and years later I'm still there. So the problem we have is that we, sorry, I've forgotten your name already. There you go. Danny spoke about the image that we see of the homeless. That's gone again. I love technology when it works. Is it a happening thing or not? Anyway, can you hear me? Yeah. All right, we'll go with that. So the problem with the problem that we have with the image that's portrayed by the mainstream media is it's predominantly middle-aged men. They're alcoholic, they're drug affected, they're basically violent criminals, and they're unworthy of support and compassion. But the fact is, most of the homeless and the wider homeless community, they're just everyday people who have just been set with a set of circumstances that they're unable to handle. I've got friends who are homeless and have been homeless, and they've led extraordinary lives. You've got people who have been builders and electricians. You've got people who have run businesses, they've started families, they've travelled the world. And while everybody's unique path into homeless is very different, and it's very specific to that person, there are some commonalities that we find across the board. What we see is that people were going all right, and things were going good, and then they went very, very bad. And that's precarious for the wider community, because a lot of people in community think they're going very good. The fact is they could go very, very bad. It's so simple. You got a husband and wife, they're paying off a mortgage, they're both working, 3 kids going to school, and suddenly one of the parents gets injured in a workplace accident. Within weeks, their budget's gone. Fall behind in your payments, the banks don't really understand too much, they don't let reality get in the way. Next thing, the house is gone. And suddenly you've got a whole family on the street. people say, well, go move into another house. There aren't enough houses. There simply isn't. The rental market is insanely tight. Part of the reason for that is because home ownership has become too expensive for everyone. The average medium price for a house in Melbourne is getting towards $1 million. I don't know about you, but I haven't got that. So that puts pressure on the rental market. We've got people in the rental market longer than they should be, and the people at the bottom can't get in. And hence we have a lot of homeless. We're waiting on the results from the census, and the numbers we have at the moment is across Australia, 105,000 homeless, 22,000 just in Victoria. When we split these stats up a little bit more, we find out that nearly half the homeless are 24 and under. So that's your demographic. When we split it up again, we find that nearly half of the homeless are women. So again, that's an issue. So for the girls in the group, imagine that suddenly you're on the street, sleeping in a swag or a blanket. How precarious would that be? And it can be very, very dangerous. And the problem is that for a lot of people, they don't actually escape homelessness. We've had homeless people that have been murdered on the street. We've had them beaten to death. Women have been raped and murdered. So sometimes people don't escape it. The other thing is, as Danny said, it's not just in Melbourne. The mainstream media would like to tell you that the only homeless are in Melbourne, and that's far from the truth. There are homeless here in Sale, guaranteed. When I was homeless, I stayed in Bairnsdale a night. Didn't like it too much. Don't know what was wrong with the place, didn't like it. Cruised through here. But I can tell you the homeless would look at a park like this and think, well, this might be nice. So things do need to change. And like I said, in terms of counting, to give you an idea, in the street count the Melbourne City Council do, in 2 years the numbers went up 74%. So that's a lot. So we've got other problems. The housing market's ridiculous. The public housing, that's dwindled. The stocks are dwindled, and we just don't have enough of it, so we need more. But I'm not trying to blame you guys for the homeless issue. It's not your fault. Successive governments have failed. I actually rebuke the idea that the governments have tried to fix it. I don't think they have. I think what they've done is they've been hijacked by corporate interests, and people can't make enough money out of it, so they're not interested in fixing it. We haven't had significant investment in public housing since the 80s. But there's a couple of things that I'd like you to take away. So for you guys, as you sort of get to the end of your schooling and you move forward, one day one of you might be sitting on a board of directors and being asked, do you want to spend 10 grand on a local charity that supports the homeless? And you might just have a think about that. Some of you might enter the police force, and out of this type of exposure to this information, you might actually be a kinder, gentler police officer, and we could do with some of them. You might also be a businessman or woman and find yourself with a homeless person on your doorstep. And it's important to realise that they're not a broken, lost soul that's irrefixable. What you need is to understand that they're just a person with hopes and dreams and ambitions like all of us. And unfortunately, the stats tell us that a certain percentage of you will be that homeless person on the doorstep of that shop. And at that point, you would want someone to treat you with a bit of compassion and respect. And we can bring it all together. So at that point where you're on the doorstep, you want the businessman or woman to be nicer to you and treat you with compassion and understanding. You certainly want the police officer to be kinder to you. And we'd like the corporate world to unshackle the checkbooks and inject a bit of money into the whole thing. And that's about it.
Thank you, Trevor. That was great. I had an interesting conversation with Trevor yesterday over a cup of tea, and he certainly changed my opinion of what a homeless person looks like. A couple of more thank yous. I'd just like to thank the Lions Club of Sale for the barbecue. Smells great. And we've also got Healthy Wellington here. They want to find out what's important to you. So they're conducting a survey here today. And there is an opportunity to go into a draw for an iPad, 32 gigabyte, and also nominate a not-for-profit club or group to win $500 donation. So please, if you've got time, just over here. they can they'll quickly do a survey with you. We have two uniting Gippsland first aid officers. You can pick them because they're the tallest two in the group and they've got white hats to assist in our walk. We have workers here today and we're all wearing black hoodies, so can you all put your hand up that have got black hoodies on? So when we go for our walk, if you want to split into about groups of 5 and just walk along these people and just have a conversation about what homeless is like and what it's about. We'll start shortly to walk around Lake Guthridge, but first of all, we'd like you all together so we can actually get a photo of everybody that's here, and then we'll go on our walk. And again, thank you for participating in today.